after 6, okay. Good evening, everyone. Good day, and thank you for joining us. Today is the third session of Black Mentorships Inc. Let's Talk Mentorship Conference. So closing night. Thank you if you have joined us for the first 2 sessions. If this is your first session with us, welcome. My name is Ingrid Wilson, and I will be your co-host for the evening. I am a mentor with BMI and a board director as well. Our overall theme for our events is mentorship for success. And tonight's theme is acquiring new skills. So, sorry all. So I'm going to be introducing shortly Evangeline Chima, who is our executive director and the founder of Black Mentorship Inc. And joining us for this evening are our speakers and panelists, Michael Carter, Marek McDonald, wave, Jeanette Edwards, Kyle Elliott, and LaLa Comrie. Welcome, everyone. So I'm going to start the evening off with a land acknowledgement and recognizing the impact on our Indigenous communities with the ongoing issues with finding of their children and the ongoing issues with truth and reconciliation. So honoring the land and territory, Halton as we know it today is rich in the history and modern traditions of many First Nations and the Métis. From the lands of the Anishinaabe to the Attawandaron, to the Haudenosaunee and to the Métis, these lands surrounding the Great Lakes are steeped in Indigenous history. As we gather today on these treaty lands, we are in solidarity with our Indigenous brothers and sisters to honor and respect the 4 directions: lands, waters, plants, animals, and ancestors that walked before us, and all the wonderful elements of creation that exist. We acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for being stewards of this traditional territory, which is where I also sit tonight. We also want to acknowledge all the traditions, cultures, and influences that in their uniqueness, unity, and coexistence result in the unique nation and country we share today. At this time, I would like to invite Evangeline Chima, founder and executive director of Black Mentorship, to step up to the podium. But first, brief intro. So suffice it to say, Evangeline and I met almost 18 months ago at I think it was a conference, but we have never met in person. But through this process, because of COVID, we have talked about so many things. And when Evangeline calls and says, Ingrid, I have an idea for an event, sleep next month, because here we go. That's what we've done, because Evangeline is always focused on the best interests of the Black community and understanding that we need to move these professionals and propel them forward. So BMI in particular was born out of Evangeline's personal experiences with systemic racism and bias as a Black professional woman in Canada. Despite having a master's degree in information technology and several certifications, her work ethics and commitment were not enough to move her forward into her professional aspirations. So out of these experiences, BMI was born to inspire, support, and mentor other Black professionals to fulfill their potential and build community and promote change. Within the last 16 months, BMI has matched over 30 Black professionals with mentors. Some of them we've seen move on over the last year into the jobs that they actually wanted to get into, and some have been promoted. And through our sessions over the last month, we had some of those individuals come forward and speak about their experiences. Evangeline also consults with Sheridan College executives and works with the Blacks Initiative program there, and currently is running a virtual internship program, VIP Innovation Accelerator Stream with Sheridan. She encourages communities and organizers to embed equity and inclusion in everything they do. And Evangeline sits on several boards, including Learning Disabilities Associations of Halton and the Halton Equity Diversity Roundtable. She's also has also been named one of the Black Women to Watch and is nominated for Women Aspiration Award. She's also a mother of 4 boys. Her boys cook dinner for her, I would just like to say, waffles, etc., all the time. I love her boys. Anyways, over to you, Evangeline.
Thank you so much, Ingrid. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. Like Ingrid said, if this is the first time you are joining us, we thank you. And if you've been able to join all 3 sessions, we are so grateful. Ingrid, we need to really do something, meet up, have lunch. We can't continue saying this, right? We have to meet. The truth is many people here haven't really met. So thank you, all of you. Today, we don't fight for just one life. We fight for all of them. This quote by Chadwick Boseman has stayed with me these past weeks as I listen to our incredible speakers. It captures the message behind our 2nd annual Let's Talk Mentorship Conference theme, Mentorship for Success. Success happens when we all take responsibility for making it work, when we become committed to leaving no man behind. So I'm gonna share a little bit of story with you. Last week, my husband said to me, babe, you know, if we knew what we know now, you wouldn't have left one of the best jobs you had years ago. You would have approached your boss and asked her to be your mentor. My husband was right. Several years ago, my boss was promoted to lead a new department, and she casually asked me to move to the new department with her. I was just getting comfortable with my role at the time, and I was afraid to move into a new position, one I felt I was not ready for. So I turned that opportunity away. Looking back now, I understand my boss saw something in me that I didn't see. I didn't get it then. I was so busy thinking about what I can do or cannot do. And I missed seeing what my boss saw that I could deliver. I let my fear hold me back. I didn't realize at the time that I could walk up to my boss and ask her to take me under her wings and nurture me. Thanks to the Let's Talk Mentorship workshops and all of our great speakers, I now know better. As I reflect on our conference, the workshops, the many lessons, and aha moments, thinking about our team today, learning new skills, I want to say something to you. Sometimes you may not see the greatness in you. That's okay. It's also okay to ask your boss, colleague, your friends, your family to be your mentor. And if you are a leader here today, be that leader or boss that sees the possible future in those you lead. I hope these sessions that we've had have provided you with learnings and informed you with techniques to reach your potential. I know this evening is not going to be an exception. Our knowledgeable speakers are ready to impact us and to add to our toolkit. So I'm going to leave you with a couple of scripture passages on mentorship. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. Another passage. Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be wiser. Teach a righteous man, and he will increase in learning. And finally, so, being affectionately desirous of you, we were ready to share with you not only the gospel of God, but also ourselves, because you had become so dear to us. And truly, all of you that supported us, that's been part of us, that is here today, you are so dear to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Evangeline. So I have the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker, Michael Carter. I'm going to go through the professional introduction because I've known Michael for many, 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 many years. But, you know, as our paths continue to cross on the professional space, Michael has always been this huge voice supporting the Black communities in the work he does. So Michael is the chief agent. I don't like that word headhunter, but he uses it. Corporate and talent amp and leadership performance brand coach at Leap Agent Consultancy. He's previously served as chief brand architect, human strategy with the S8 Group, and previously partner at Baker Street Inc., pharma talent and headhunting consultancy firm. Michael is very focused on continuing to attract, build, and advise talent. In his word, creating future rock stars leaders while helping to keep present rock stars firmly on their chosen stage. And he does this all the time, you know, always looking out for the Black community in the process. Coaching and advisory tools to best navigate the beginning, middle, and twilight of their career choices and corporate brands is part of the toolkit that Michael offers. He's passionate about making his clients' lives amazing in the outside, corporate creative, boardrooms, and the decision-making chairs. His clients have spanned the major brands and leaders within the creative advertising, big retail design, pharmaceutical, and financial industries. He will tell you that he's very fortunate to have such amazing clients, from corporate industry leaders, creatives, content makers, sports leaders. He has helped to build brands for his clients in Canada, the US, and the Caribbean, the Philippines, South America, and in the UK. Many of his clients have called him the fixer, the connector of talent and opportunities. I, however, know him as a wonderful father. If you are connected to this man on LinkedIn, he has the best pictures and situations with his son. He's a wonderful father and a great friend. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Ingrid. It's a pleasure to be here. And with all of that, thank you all and good night. Because there's not much else for me to say. Thank you so much for that terrific introduction. It really is, it's a pleasure for me to be here. It's a pleasure for me to be here with BMI and to see the wonderful team behind this initiative, and also to my fellow panelists. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm not sure really if I have necessarily unbelievable pearls of wisdom. As Ingrid said, honestly, I'm very, very fortunate to be where I am. I love the work that I do. Yes, I am the chief agent provocateur at Leap Agents, and I've been extremely fortunate over the last 25 years to have had the clients that I have. They've given me their trust to work with them, to guide them, to be their Sherpas in many different cases. And it's not just necessarily placing talent, or as Ingrid said, in headhunting talent, but it's really more guiding talent through the halls of corporate and non-corporate environments. Look, let's face it, you know, this is COVID or COVID related, and that has changed a great deal of how we look at the workspace, how we look at the future of work or the present of work. that has changed drastically. However, there are also some things that have not changed and will probably never change, to be quite frank with you. And that is really how we perform, how we deliver excellence. I happen to be one of those individuals that is quite lucky that both what I do on a daily basis and the passion that I also have for my community seems to align in many different sense. But nothing equals the passion and love that I have for my amazing 8-year-old, and everything around me revolves around that, to be quite frank with you. There's been so many different conversations since COVID about what has changed, how do we lead, how do we affect talent, how do we navigate, how do I get the right opportunity, how do I secure it, what is the difference? And honestly, yes, there's been some changes, but really and honestly, the value of great leadership, great culture, the brilliance of effective communication, the fact that your personal brands within the corporate and or creative space matters even more so than before. Your integrity, your character is just as vital prior to COVID as it is during COVID, as it will be post-COVID. The fact that, yes, we must all perform absolutely brilliant work still matters and matters greatly. Knowing your purpose, doing the work with passion, and in the end, really and honestly, ensure that what you're trying to do, whether you are an entrepreneur or you're leading a large corporate entity, find the way to make the lives of your people better. Find a way to make the lives of your individuals, whether it's your boss or your team, absolutely amazing. Oftentimes we hear that individuals say, I have continued to do 5 years, 10 years, I always hit my mark, I deliver on my mandate, yet I do not get promoted. I do not get what I call the zhuzh. I am not elevated, but I consistently hit my targets. I consistently hit 100%, and I am not being rewarded. And, at times I have said it, and I know sometimes it might be controversial, but I do try to remind individuals, if you're hitting 100% in what you do in the workspace, the reality is you get paid for that. That's just doing the job. Excellence is when you surpass that. There's never been a moment where I don't believe someone's boss or company has called them at Christmas just to simply say, hey, Bob, listen, we did all the numbers and you hit 83% this year. So what we are going to do is we're going to claw back 17% of your compensation. And if you hit your number next year, great. It doesn't happen. So what we must all remember and try to realize is that, yes, we're given a mandate to hit, but try your hardest to really and honestly add excellence beyond what we've been asked to do. Those little things matter, and they matter greatly. I love what somebody said earlier, which is, I had a situation with a boss that recognized something great in me and asked me to join them, and I might have not recognized the opportunity, or I might have failed. And sometimes what does happen is we spend so much time concentrating on the job at hand, the mandate at hand, and not recognizing what the real value is. Really and honestly, the value is the emperor or the empress that you serve, your boss. That's the person that normally hires you. That is the person that normally will guide you. That's the person that's either going to be an advocate, an asset, or a liability. The reason that they have chosen you, in most cases, goes beyond what is written on the CV. They have chosen you to join them in this fight, to join them in this battle. And yes, at times it may not work out because it is not the right emperor, it is not the right boss for you. But when it is really about, how do I follow this person because they've recognized something great in me? They are willing to invest in me. They are willing to walk next to me. How do I pay attention and recognize that the true value of where I am is honestly at times the person that I am working with, the person that I'm reporting to? And how do I ensure that they also recognize my true value to them? Not just my true value to the organization, not just my true value to the mandate, but indeed, am I making my boss's life easier? Am I recognizing, or do I know what his or her dream might be, and am I helping to deliver on that? Now, your boss can be the board, it can be obviously a single boss, or it can be a group, but am I doing that, or am I actually guessing? Am I guessing at what it is that my boss or my organization desires from me? Am I assuming what it is, or do I actually, have I taken the time to learn it? Have I taken the time to ask the important questions? Have I taken the time to say, what is the dream that you have, and how can I help you deliver this? And by the way, allow me to express to you what my dream is. Can you help me deliver on this? So really, when in the end of it all, the human element in the business has not changed. It is the most critical component of it. You know, there are individuals who, yes, they'll tell you, you know, I did 20% over budget, I did X and X, but I still haven't gotten anywhere. All of us here are relatively the same, meaning that if we are going to go into corporate battle or creative battle or entrepreneurship battle, who do we want to join us? Are we indeed going to hire and invest and champion individuals, or an individual who does not understand us, that we do not believe have our backs, that do not believe will stand with us? Or are we indeed going to invest in someone who will be there for us, who will go into battle with us? Very rarely is it a successful union when someone is invested or hired strictly on just capabilities, just experience, and only expertise, but not fit. In other words, this is not the person for me, and vice versa. Very rarely has that become a success. It really doesn't. It usually falls very, very short, because what you have are individuals who are not there for your success, and in turn, you may not be there for their success because the connection doesn't work. As we move through COVID, as we move to a situation now where, you know, I don't think anybody really has a handle on the percentages of people that will go back to the brick and mortar and who will work from home. What is apparent, obviously, is that, you know, the previous leadership or management by attendance no longer applies. So there's a time when, you know, managers would reward individuals, or how they would look upon your success is the fact that you're there at 5 to 7 and you leave at 6:30. That has changed drastically, because now we're working from home. So sometimes we might be in the office in the future, sometimes we're not. So delivering greatness now becomes a very different situation. How do we capture culture when we're not all in the same floor? We're not all in the same building. We do not have the luxury anymore of the water cooler. We do not have the luxury of lunch. We do not have the luxury of just feeding off each other. Those are the questions that, you know, are seem to be coming to the forefront. And if I may jump to, you know, some of the struggles that we all have as Black professionals, and when I say Black professionals, that may mean Black creatives, it may mean sports in many different ways. Look, has it been difficult? Yes. Will it continue to have some difficulties? Yes. But I truly believe that we also have an opportunity, and we can succeed if, again, we start out by looking for the right individuals that we can work with, the right individuals that will see us, that will see our expertise, see the fit that works, and they are willing, by individual or by team, to invest in us. But we must also ask for what we want, but it's not about just asking, it's asking in the right way. It is an effective ask. You can ask for what you want, but if we ask in the wrong and inappropriate way, if we do not provide our leaders with an opportunity to assess what we bring to the table, what we have done, how we have succeeded, why we are arguably the most amazing fit, then we are not necessarily arming them with the right information to go and represent our interests, or to ask maybe their boss as to why I cannot promote this person. You know, when I first started, you know, in this many, many years ago, we were at that juncture in pharmaceutical where the mere fact of you having you might be an MD, you might be a PhD or PharmD, but the mere fact that you came from the Caribbean, you came from Africa, India, Pakistan, meant that your skill set, your vast experience was not taken seriously. Now, have we moved beyond that? We have. Have we moved as far as we should? That is debatable. Okay, but I tend to be more of an optimist, because I have seen where individuals who, to be honest with you, they may not have our skin color, but they are truly invested in creating avenues and cultures where individuals of diverse backgrounds can exceed, can succeed, and can excel. I know that happens. The trick sometimes is to ensure that we are placing ourselves across the table from those individuals. Because what happens is you have individual leaders or group leaders who can recognize our brilliance, not just be barred because of, you know, skin color or where we are, but they truly are willing to recognize our brilliance, and more importantly, they're willing to invest in it. Lastly, what I would say is this: I believe that, you know, people, you know, our Black sisters and brothers are incredible, smart, gifted, passionate. You know, but I would say this: your individual and collective story matters. Tell an effective story of who you are. Tell an effective story of what your brand stands for. If you're not able to do that, find and invest in someone, something that will be able to do that for you. Every individual, including myself, we have blind spots. We don't know everything. We can't see around all the corners. But invest in yourself. There's a reason why the individuals who are leading the biggest firms in the world invest in themselves, because sometimes they do need that value of advice to say, what don't I see? What am I missing? How can I get better? How can I be more effective? Give that thought as we roll into this post-COVID world. Invest in yourself. If you believe that you have a blind spot, if you believe that I've been passed over, find a way to get honest, clear, effective opinion and advice. Because sometimes that advice might be hard, it might hurt, but what it might do is to simply say to you, yes, scholastically, educationally, experience, you are brilliant. But the way you tell your story, the effectiveness of your ability to connect is weak. Let's work on that. Let's invest so that we can turn that into something positive. If you take nothing away from this, what I would say is be passionate, know your purpose, recognize who is on your side, recognize how do I make the people around me, whether it's my team, my boss, how do I make their lives easier? How do I ask for what I need, what I want? And do your very, very best to always, always, always deliver brilliance. Thank you.
You're mute, Ingrid. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. That was amazing. I was busy typing. Sorry. All the comments.
It's a good thing I'm not passionate about my work at all.
Yes, yes, it's very good. Yes, otherwise we would all have been up singing and dancing along and applauding. I saw a lot of nodding from the panelists. So all good, Michael. So, so we're going to move into introducing our panelists.
Yeah.
And go from there. And then, so format tonight, we're going to ask, we're going to introduce each of you, and then we're going to ask you to just briefly add a point and maybe tell us what mentorship means to you and sponsorship, since Michael started us off briefly. And Evangeline, I'm going to hand over to you to introduce Marek, our first panelist.
Thank you so much. And before going into that, I want to tell everybody to please ask your questions. Use the Q&A and enter your questions. And also put in the chat. Let us know where you're logging in from today. Use this opportunity to network to these great speakers that we have here for you. And so, Michael, thank you once again. Delivering greatness, know your purpose, make the people around you happy, like you touched all aspects. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Marek McDonald If you've been with us since the beginning, then I'm sure you remember Marek. Marek focuses on providing leadership and operational development and transformation across supply chain sectors. He is the current president of Association of Supply Chain Management, Toronto chapter, an 800 member professional supply chain association. He's also an adamant supporter of Black Mentorship, Inc. and one of our mentors. Marek, please take a minute and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Michael, for that. Thank you, Evangeline. Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you for the panelists for being here and everyone that has joined us. If you've got friends that are at home waiting to get on, text them, shoot them a WhatsApp, tell them get on. We're on now. So just a quick about myself and a few words. Congratulations on this being the second annual event for BMI. Yeah, 2 years rolling and many more to go. So congratulations on that. And thank you for having me. Evangeline already mentioned it, but I invite everyone for engagement. Please get in the chat, ask your questions. Myself and the panelists all spoke before we got on live here, and we agreed. Of the 3 days, we want the toughest questions, the ones you've been building up, the ones that haven't been answered. We want them. So please get them to us. Beyond that, I'll say one skill that I say is needed to take us into the future is active adaptation. And I just want you guys to think about that. What that means to me is the ability to step in front of the line for change. If you really want to prepare yourself for the future, you have to have an eye for the things that are changing in your environment and push yourself to the front and say, hey, I'll take a lead on that, because you'll be the first person to make the mistakes. You'll be the first person to be take the learnings and put yourself in a leadership position. Plus the leaders and the people, the team that you work with see your vulnerability, they see you work through it, and then you're able to help. So that's one thing that I would say will really help everyone in the future as we go on. I'm looking forward to the conversation with the rest of the team here. But before I jump off, I'll say one thing. And it's just a quote, and it's about mentorship, and it's about sharing. A mind stretched by a new experience can never go back to its former dimensions, no matter how much the change is. So just think about that, and think about when you're lending and you're sharing information with people, and when you're taking things in. You'll never look at old situations the same way. You'll never approach old situations the same way. We're all about growth. Life moves forward. Looking forward to discussion. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Let's get to it.
Are you guys ready? I'm pumped, man. Thank you so much, Mary, for that. I really love that. Active adaptation. Pay attention to things that are changing around you. Jeanette Edwards. Jeanette is a career strategist, training facilitator, and founder of the Corona Days Professional Development Group. So please check her out on Facebook. She's duped the career realists because of her unique ability to help her clients to gain clarity and take a realistic approach to career advancement. On a personal note, we connected over LinkedIn about a year ago over our mutual interest to build a more equitable and inclusive workforce. We met once and we hit it off, and we've stayed connected since then. Thank you, Jeanette. Please take a minute and introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me, Evangeline, and thank you for all of the presenters. Unfortunately, this is my first day. I have to catch the recordings. I've just been all over the place, but I am thankful to be here this evening. So I am Jeanette Edwards, and I am a career strategist. I kind of bumbled into it, and that's okay. I've been helping people navigate their careers since I was 19 years old. And I'm a lot older than that now, and have been doing it for free since that time. And when the pandemic came, a lot of people contacted me for help. And I decided that I needed to not just help them, but I had people within my network that could help them. And so in addition to me helping people, I then tapped people I knew and then actually went out very strategically to find professionals that I didn't know, the type of professionals that I didn't know to help other people. And we have a career development group of, I like to say between 3,500 and 8,000 people. And I know that's crazy, but it is. And we do all of our work for free. So we mentor people, we connect, and our mission is to increase access and representation for in the workplace, and however you define the workplace. That could be in the US 1099 employment, which is self-employment, or W-2 employment, working, you know, for an employer, but increase representation of people from marginalized groups in all employment spaces. And we do that with mentorship opportunities and by providing free training. And so that's what I do. But I have a day job. I'm also director of administration for Maryland Humanities Council, and that's my day job. But that's what we do. And I believe I am here. Am I supposed to talk about my talk right now? About demonstrating your willingness to grow, or how's this going? Am I just supposed to go on and talk about it?
Well, you can go ahead, Ingrid.
Yeah, so just now, you've actually talked about some of it. It's just to introduce yourself and then tell us one skill that moved you forward. And I heard something about a great connector here, right? And somebody was posting that. And then we'll go into the panel, and then we'll do little speaks. Don't worry, we have questions.
So that's one of my members and friends in there, but a friend that I met through doing this. I am a master connector, but that's great, and it helps my work. But I'll tell you, one of the greatest skills I had as a young professional, which many of the people here are young professionals, and I think that was that I'm a very good active listener, even though I talk a lot. So I will turn it over to the next person.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeanette. Okay. Active listening and master collector. Okay. And did you add a third one? Talk a lot? Okay. Kyle. Kyle Elliott. Kyle leads Black's diversity and inclusion outreach initiatives, which are designed to attract students from diverse backgrounds to the practice of business law. In this role, Kyle is also responsible for collaborating with key stakeholders to promote the firm's internal diversity and inclusion strategy and initiatives. So one of our mentors, Susan Grandy, introduced me to Kyle when we were looking for a lawyer to join our mentorship program. We had two young men that are looking to go into law, thinking about it. And I was fortunate to be introduced to Kyle. And when I reached out to him, we got lucky. Actually, when I first reached out to him, I think it was only one person that I was talking about. And then my son said, "Don't forget me, I'm here." So Kyle was generous to say, "No worries, I would take the two of them." Kyle, thank you. Please take a minute and introduce yourself.
So thank you very much for the introduction. And I will just say it's a real pleasure to be here tonight and to be sitting on this panel with such a great array of professionals who are going to be sharing so much wisdom tonight. And I think the audience is really in store for quite the treat in that sense. Also, it's really great to see the success of Black Mentorship Inc. And it feels great to be a part of that. In terms of just sort of my background, I think it's sometimes helpful just to take a step back. Oftentimes when people hear my title, they have no clue what I do. So I am a lawyer by training, and I did practice law for a period of time. These days, I'm, as Evangeline would have said, the manager of diversity, inclusion, and outreach initiatives at Blake's, or Blake Castles and Braden LLP, which is a national business law firm with offices across the country in Vancouver, Calgary, Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, and a few smaller offices in New York and London. I'm based out of Toronto, and I have a responsibility for a few different things. I like to break it up into buckets to make a little more sense. On one hand, I spend a fair bit of my time focused on outreach initiatives, and that's really about attracting students to the practice of law, and hopefully to the practice of law at Blake's, and so the practice of business law. And so in that sense, I spend a fair bit of time working with high school students, working with undergraduate students, and law students. And, you know, it's about building capacity and also, you know, helping people sort of understand the path to success that is before them. On the other side of things, I spend a fair bit of time focused on the firm's internal diversity and inclusion initiatives. And so it's all about the culture of Blake's and making sure that this, you know, is an environment that is hospitable, an environment where everyone, regardless of your background, is able to succeed. And so instead of practicing law on a day-to-day basis, this is how I spend my time. And it's been very rewarding. And it, you know, law is an interesting profession in the sense that we are nowhere near where we need to be in terms of diversity and inclusion. And there's so much work to do. I always like to put a positive spin on it in the sense that there's, you know, a lot of opportunity for positive impact. And, you know, I think there are some agents for change within the profession that are well positioned to do some important work. I think our firm is one of those agents. I think, you know, the opportunity I have is really immense. So that is me, and that is a little bit of what I do in my professional background. In terms of talking about one skill, you know, I think Michael touched on this a little bit. I think now more than ever, you know, thinking about hard skills versus soft skills, the hard skills are always going to be important. You know, being able to do the job, having the qualifications, that's never going to stop being important. But I think now more than ever, the soft skills are so necessary. And for me, the biggest one right now, I think, is communication. And Michael talked a little bit about effective communication, how important that is. I would say, you know, more than just speaking clearly and concisely, you know, more than being a good presenter, I think one thing that's really important right now and is going to continue to be important in this, you know, virtual world and the hybrid world is, you know, communicating in a way that builds rapport with others, communicating in a way that allows you to build trust with your colleagues. It's been a very difficult, what are we at, year and a half plus of working from home. And, you know, I don't think that's going away anytime soon. And it's just going to be more and more important going forward.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. And yes, you're right. Communication. Like, you cannot talk enough of that. LaLa Conry. LaLa, where do I begin? This young, fine lady is an award-winning copywriter and brand storyteller who helps purpose-driven brand masters their message and win with words. Yes. Her company, LaLa Writes Plus Co, manages over 50 brands across Canada, and more than half are led by bold female entrepreneurs, and BMI is one of them. So I met LaLa through a friend of mine, Sis, Chief Super, LaLa Deyemi. And I called LaLa, I think it was when I was thinking about, oh my God, how can I bring this idea to fruition, to light? So I called LaLa and I shared this idea with LaLa, and I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm heading. I just know that I have to get this started. And I needed to go on live, you know, and she was so calm, so patient, walked me through it, and created the BMI website and all social media pages that you all know today. So it is my absolute pleasure to have LaLa here today, and it's been an amazing ride working with LaLa and her organization. LaLa, take a minute and say hi.
Thank you so much. I feel so humbled by that introduction. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you to all the panelists. I've already taken notes and I've already learned so much in like this short time. So as you know, I am LaLa. I have a background in journalism. I have a degree in journalism because I like to tell stories. And I worked in journalism for about 10 years. And I realized that the most important stories that I can help tell are the stories of entrepreneurs, to help shape their story online and to kind of help shape their brand, like what I helped with BMI. I think that Michael touched on it when he says we all have to tell that effective story in order to be seen, in order to be heard, and in order for people to be attracted to our brand. So that's basically what I do with my clients. I have over 50 clients across Canada, and I really help them shape their brand voice and find those stories that are going to connect with their audience. So that's a little bit about me. So the skill that I think people need to go into the future is the ability to embrace change. I think that if I've learned anything over the last little while is that sometimes in our jobs and in our businesses, we do have to pivot. And those who are unable to pivot are going to be left behind. So I think people will have to be agile in order to make that shift and in order to change. An essential skill will be the ability to see change not only as a burden, but as an opportunity to grow and to innovate. Yeah, so that's it. And I'm happy to be here. I'm happy for this discussion. I think it's going to be a great one.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Ability to embrace change, active adaptation, communication, like the team is all, I think, all related to each other. And so before we move on, before I hand it over to Ingrid for us to start the panel discussions, I'm going to have our volunteers, social media strategist Jeff Ozurumba remind us how we can all benefit from this session again tonight. But let me take this opportunity to say thank you, Jeff.
Yay, Jeff!
Yes. Jeff is relocating, so we're crying, but we're so happy for Jeff. Actually, he was supposed to be in Maryland today, so I did some magic and he's here with me. Okay. But yes, Jeff, I am gonna give you a few minutes to say something and remind people what they need to do.
Hello, everyone. Once again, thanks, Evangeline, for having me here. I was glad to be a part of BMI and everything that's been going on. So honored, and I feel special to have known you and help me progress in my career in many different ways. So I just wanted to, like Evangeline said, expand on the importance of mentorship. This new role I got would not be possible without me being in connection with Evangeline and coming to these BMI events, and she's helped me improve my network in so many ways. And it's just because of her that I've got this new role, and I'll be going out to DC soon to start. And I'm very excited about that. And I'm truly a testimony to the power of networking and BMI and the work that's being done here. So I just want to welcome all the participants, the attendees, and panelists. Great to meet you all. I've learned so much by just a few minutes I've been here. I showed up slightly late, but I'm so happy to be here. I just want to kind of expand on the importance of reaching out to these individuals. To the attendees, I just want to let you know that networking is real and mentorship does work. And please take this little opportunity and this little time that we grant you. So feel free to reach out to the panelists, even if you feel a slight interest or you feel just a personable connection to them. Just do it. Take that step, reach out, and I'm sure they will help you in whatever you're looking for. I noticed Janet already got a question in the Q&A. So yeah, just reach out and just keep that going. I'm sure you guys would always find importance in mentorship and what networking does for not only your own professional network, but your career as well, and you as a person. So it's always good to, if you feel the need to reach out to someone, just do it. Get out there, put yourself in that position, because being uncomfortable is what makes you grow. And like was said earlier, networking is all part of growth and success. So take this time, reach out, pay attention, and just stay connected with BMI as well and our upcoming events. And yeah, that's pretty much. So thank you for this time. I'm truly grateful for everything BMI has done for me. I don't know what I've done for BMI, but BMI has helped me so many ways, and I'm truly grateful.
We are grateful to have you.
We are. I remember that day when we interviewed him and the screen opened and there was these two ladies, Ingrid and Evangeline, looking at Jeff, and he just was like, okay, I'm quiet, I'm cool, I'm calm. They're not calm, but let's go. Jeff, it's been fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So panelists, we have some questions. Unless there's anything in the Q&A, I would like to start off with some questions. So LaLa, I want to ask you the first question. So how did you find your purpose? You started talking a little bit about it. So, you know, would you mind expanding on that and tell us, how did you find your purpose?
I've always known that my purpose was connected to writing. I found power in words, and I always knew that being able to tell my story and being able to help other people tell their story was important. But I used to think that journalism was the only way in which I could do that. So when I realized that journalism doesn't really make the money that I wanted to make, I decided that I would go into kind of corporate communications. And by going into corporate communications, I was able to see the different ways that I was able to tell stories, that I was able to communicate, that I was able to help brands. So I really I've learned so much working in corporate communications, but I always felt like the stories I was telling for the corporations that I was working for weren't the real stories that needed to be told. So I had a passion to tell stories, but I didn't find any real satisfaction in writing a press release about, I don't know, about a launch or anything like that. I didn't find value in that. And more, I just started to say, okay, well, what makes you happy? What are you committed to? And I come from a background that is, my dad was very big into the community. He worked a lot with the community. So I knew that I wanted to do something with like the Black community. So I kind of attached myself to women like me who just wanted to tell their stories, but didn't know how. They didn't have the tools, they weren't able, they were trying to start businesses, but they didn't know how to go about it. And that's kind of where I found my purpose, by continually asking myself questions like, why is this important? And exploring the interests that were important to me. I think that's how I essentially ended up where I am, and ended up really being satisfied with helping women like myself, not only women, but men as well, grow their businesses.
Thank you, LaLa. Evangeline, next question to you.
Thank you. I love that. You know, going through asking yourself series of questions. What makes me happy? What am I connected to? Exploring those interests that are important to you. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing with us those key points that can help us to find our own individual purpose. And so, Jeanette, I'm gonna come to you with this question. As you know, I mean, everybody's talking about being ready to adapt, embrace change. And if you are a professional, you are in entry level, mid-career professional, you want to move to the next level. How do you demonstrate your willingness to grow?
Being flexible. So being flexible in the workplace. I also think volunteering for opportunities, creating opportunities to learn and grow. So there's something that I didn't know I was doing it when I was a young professional, but now they call it creating bench strength. If you know anything about it, right? So I just wanted to learn, and you know, they might call it imposter syndrome or whatever you want to call it. I'm 47, so I'm much older than a lot of people, right? So, okay. So I happen to have, my first professional job was with the mayor's office in New York City. And everyone there was from like Kennedy School of Government and Harvard and Yale, and I wasn't. And so I went to directors and managers who let me know they respected me and asked for more work, right? I asked for opportunities to learn and grow. And today we call that creating bench strength. So it's like, no, I didn't have the position, I didn't have the title, I didn't have the authority. And I said I wanted to learn. Would they teach me? And teaching meant, okay, take a stab at it and try. And so I created those opportunities for myself in that way, and it worked very well for me. Now, well, I guess for the past about 15 years, as a director, I always create those opportunities now for my team members. Opportunities for them to build their bench strength, because my goal is always for somebody to be me when I go, right? And so I would say if you're not being given the opportunity to learn and grow, to look for them, and to have enough courage to say to someone, I want to learn and grow. That's a way to demonstrate your willingness to grow, and that it's not dependent upon a promotion or a title, right? It is that you really want to learn and grow, and that's a way, I believe.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. Create opportunities for yourself. Ask. I think that team has come up on all three of our sections, where everybody, all the speakers are saying, ask. Ask for help, ask for more work, ask to be thought, just ask, don't assume, ask. Ingrid, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Okay, Kyle, this question is for you. So over the past 17 months, we've been forced to work virtually. So workspace changing. Some say virtual working has come to stay. Some say not. In your opinion, what do you think are the skills that will benefit Black professionals in the virtual world?
It's a great question. And, I think we got a bit of a preview of, some different skills that people touched on in the introductions. And I talked about communication, and I think it's important to dig into it a little bit, because I think there's, some different aspects to it that we don't always think about. As I mentioned, it's more than just being a clear communicator. It's more than just being, having strong presentation skills. But there are a few different things. I think one of the things a lot of people struggled with early on during the pandemic, when we first started working from home, was kind of, establishing communication norms and figuring out what works best. And, when you're on a team, it's really, really important that you figure out the best way to communicate with your team. And so, starting by setting those sort of norms that are going to dictate the way you move forward is super important. So is it going to be by phone? Is it going to be by email? Is it going to be by video? These are things that usually it takes some time to figure out. But the more that you're thinking about it, the more that you're prepared for it, the easier that transition is going to be. At the same time, kind of thinking about the best times to connect, right? It's difficult right now. People are working from home and they have distractions at home. People have children, people are caregivers, people have, surprise guests that pop up on calls all the time. And it's one of my favorite things about the pandemic, truthfully. You might have a child walk onto the screen, or you might have a parent walk in, you might have pets show up. But knowing that, the time that works for you might not work for the next person, and being clear about that, and having that open channel for two-way communication is super important. And then, there are sort of just like practical tools, and thinking about, the best way to share information, whether it's like shared drives, version control, Dropbox, things like that. But I'm not going to get too much into that, because I think a lot of those things are kind of things you can Google and learn about on your own. I also, though, talked about, the importance of building or communicating in a way that allows you to build trust, allows you to build rapport with your colleagues. And I think there's a few different elements to that. There's kind of that personal level, understanding that, you're working with people, and that you can't treat every relationship, every interaction as a transaction. And so I think part of building trust on a personal level, part of building rapport on a personal level, is talking about those non-work related items, starting calls with, instead of just digging into the meat of the issue or whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish that at that point in time, how are things going for you? How are the kids? How was your vacation? Are you looking forward to, something this weekend? that's actually really important to, I think, you know, letting that other person know who you are, but also getting to that point where they realize, oh, I can rely on that person. I know that person. And then on a professional level, you know, I think it's something that a lot of marginalized communities struggle with. You know, I think it's very easy to just kind of diminish yourself, but I think it's really important now more than ever to be upfront and to not be shy about what you bring to the table, what your qualifications are, what your experiences are. I think now more than ever, you need to be intentional about communicating those sort of things. And then at the same time, you know, just thinking about establishing trust on a professional level, consistent communication. You know, making sure that you are sharing updates about, you know, where you are in the project, what the progress looks like, what the challenges are. It's so easy to destroy trust in the virtual world by just, you know, going silent on an email thread, and people start wondering what's going on with Kyle. You know, is the work getting done? Maybe, maybe not. So I think that's also important. Another skill, I think, you know, Merrick touched on this, and I think LaLa touched on a related concept, but, you know, the idea of being willing to adapt, or, you know, having those adaptability skills is so, so important right now. You know, in my profession, we're essentially selling confidence. Nobody wants to hear from a lawyer that they don't know the answer to the question. And so even if you don't know, you're going to say, you're going to, you know, in the most confident way possible, tell them that you're going to find the answer. But I think, you know, part of being adaptable is recognizing that, you know, there's room for improvement and being open to improvement. And so while the confidence is super important, it's also recognizing that I have weaknesses. Is not all strength, right? And having that self-awareness is going to allow you to kind of embrace that growth mindset, be learning oriented. And I think now more than ever, that's super important with the constantly evolving situations we find ourselves in. The other skill that I think is worth touching on that a lot of people don't always think of as a skill is empathy. Now more than ever, I think, you know, people have found themselves in very challenging situations. And I think recognizing, you know, that we're all in this together and, you know, we're not going it alone is super important. So understanding, you know, another person's perspective, another person's emotions, their experience, I think is super, super key going forward. And I think it's related to the other concepts. You know, it really lets you build that trust, really helps you sort of understand how people think, really informs your decision making. And I think it's come up a couple times, but things like active listening, such an important part about building your empathy toolbox. Being open-minded, you know, that's come up. I just mentioned it ago, but I think others have mentioned it as well. Asking those questions of other people, like I already said, right, on a personal level. Super important to understanding someone's perspective, super important to understanding someone's perspective, but also asking questions of yourself. You know, how would I feel in this situation? How would I cope in this situation? Is going to help you sort of, you know, get into that mind space. So those are just a few skills. You know, there are plenty of skills that I think will be important. Digital literacy, time management, organization, always important, isn't going to stop being important. But those are three of the soft skills that I think are really key to focus on right now.
Thank you, Kyle. Great responses. Oh, I don't know why I'm feeding back there. So I'm going to throw another question in for any of the panelists to answer. So the question was really, the question around, you know, the skill sets you need for the virtual world, you know, as an employee. How do you put yourself out there? How do you keep up to date and let your leaders know that they're up to date? Do you think that the leaders have transitioned the same way to the new virtual workspace? Are the leaders more adaptable? Are the leaders more inclusive, understanding that you can't put 20 meetings in one day because everybody's in Zoom? Are the leaders therefore more empathetic? Have the leaders shifted? And is there an expectation that next year that we're just going to tell everybody to go back to work because we're not happy with this as leaders? Any thoughts?
If I may, Ingrid, yeah, I got some thoughts about it. So one thing I didn't include in the intro is that for the past 8 years, my focus has been on leadership development. I focus on frontline leaders, leaders that manage work, where the work gets done. I think everybody's on LinkedIn. You know, there's a bazillion executive coaches, right? I mean, strategy is one thing, but getting the work done is another. And that's really where businesses make money, right? And Kyle just talked about it. It's the empathy. But to Ingrid's question about have leaders been able to adapt, and I can speak firsthand, you know, it's just as challenging for them. But at the same time, I feel like that what has been going on with the pandemic has kind of level set our human interactions. There's no one that I've spoken to that has been untouched by the pandemic in one way or another. And I think, you know, prior to it, we could keep distance. We could keep the employees that work for us at arm's length. And, you know, hey, I'm the boss, so this is what's going to happen. This is what you're going to get done. But now understanding, hey, you know, for my employee, you know, my aunt is sick, has caught COVID, or my friend is out of work. And you as a leader being able to say, hey, you know, I have a hard time coming in here because I've got to, you know, my kids aren't in school, and, you know, my wife has lost her job because of it, has really changed it. It made people think about the people that are in front of us. And I really do truly see that. The challenge that I see is that leading up to this, many of these leaders didn't have to think that way. So that's the leap. How now do I communicate differently? How now do I show empathy when before I was the boss, the final word, the person with the armor on, right? So I think that's been internal learning that has been super challenging for them. The clients and the people that I work with, you know, have reached out to me because they're at a place where they're vulnerable now, where they're saying, hey, I know that I need help. So, you know, it's been a string through all of the conversations. The communication piece is really what's going to bridge the gap and get people over it. We're all adults, we're all professionals, and I like how Kyle separated. You know, there's that professional talk. In fact, I was mentoring someone today on the work site. I was mentoring two people at the same time, teaching the leader how to teach the other leader. And I separated the same way. You're going to have the professional talk. You know, I heard them interacting. He was saying, well, you know, we do this because this is the process and this is the output. And I said, okay, like, respectfully, cut the BS. Like, I understand the process. I know what the output is, but why are you really doing this on the work floor? You know, like, tell me why. How are you engaging your people? When you talk to them, do they understand? Do they get it? And he goes, well, you know, it's challenging, I'll be honest. Okay, so let's talk about that. You know, so there's a professional side of it where, yes, you've got to toe the line. You've got to meet the objectives. You got to get the job done. But then, Kyle mentioned, there's a human aspect. You know, we're all on a highway. Everybody's coming from or going somewhere, whether it's success or tragedy. You know, we all go through it. So when you're passing someone on this highway, you know, just think about that. Where are you going? You know, did you just come from a big win, so your energy's high and you're feeling good? Or, you know, did you just experience something that got you down a little bit, or you're not sure how you're going to get over? Because the person you're interacting with or communicating with, they're carrying that same energy of their trip as well. You know, so be aware of it, be conscious of it, and know that that's the open door to connect. From a leadership perspective, if someone is not producing, or someone's not, you know, where you think they should be, start with why. What's going on? Like, tell me what's going on. How have you been? Like, COVID is the free ticket for the conversation. Hey, things are tough out there. I mean, I know I've walked past you for the past 16 months and haven't said anything, but like, how are things? Are you okay? You know, do you have family? Like, are things all right? That really and truly is a level playing field where you can connect with your teams and really start to understand the things that are happening behind the scenes for them. So it's tough for leaders, but still the order is tall because we still have to deliver business while taking into consideration all of the things that are impacting all the people we work with. So it goes from the transactional work relationship, punch in, punch out, to thank you for getting in here. I know it was a challenge, but like, let's work together and see how much work we can get done today. And I know that tomorrow is going to be a different day with a different energy, and we're going to have to take a different approach. So that is really the leap that I see for the leaders now, which is great for me. But you know, I'm glad to see that really, if nothing else, it humanizes everyone. you know? The change will happen, progress happens. They will have to adapt. The guys that used to be command and control will not make it in the new world. They just won't. And they'll sift themselves out. But for the ones that are saying, okay, I realize now that my previous style isn't working or delivering, and Michael talked about it, you know, sure, you can deliver the results, but what is that extra value that you're adding to the business? And that is developing your people so that the culture is there. You want the word to be and it to be known that, hey, listen, I work for Ingrid, you know, I'm in the lunchroom, I'm gonna say, hey, listen, Ingrid's okay. You know, she asked me about, you know, my family. She asked me how things are going. You know, I know maybe you don't like her, but just give her a chance because I really saw a human side of her. And that's a slow burn, but it does pick up. And that's the culture that you want. So to answer your question very directly, no, I don't think the transition has been the same for the leaders. I think, again, the order is very tall and most of the reflection is internal, but the ones that realize it see that it's now, it's not process, it's not collective agreements, or it's not standard operating procedures. It's the human connect that's getting there. And I love seeing it.
Thank you, Merrick. Anybody else want to add any comments?
I'll just add a quick comment.
Yep.
I think I agree with everything Merrick said and would just echo that. But I would probably answer the question in a slightly different way if I were to answer it directly, and saying that, yeah, for the most part, I think there's a lot of leaders who haven't changed. I think successful ones have. I think they've been forced to. I think, you know, one of the stories of the pandemic, in 2021 at least, has been, you know, this idea of the Great Resignation. In 2020, a lot of people, you know, were afraid to leave their jobs. Everyone was kind of just holding on to what they had. In 2021, in a lot of industries, people are leaving. They're not willing to put up with, you know, the same old
BS.
Diplomatically, yeah. They're not willing to put up with the, you know, the same things they were putting up with before, and they're finding other opportunities. And so, you know, the leaders who haven't adapted or haven't thought about adapting are seeing a diminished workforce. They're having staffing issues. The organizations are struggling. Those that have done a better job, and, you know, I don't know that there are many that have done a perfect job, but those who have been quicker to adapt, or those who are, you know, in the midst of that process, have had more success. And you're seeing healthy organizations and people wanting to stick around. So I, again, you know, agree with pretty much everything Merrick had to say. I'd say, you know, there's definitely a challenge for a lot of leaders right now. A few have, I think, you know, done a bit of a better job, and that's kind of interesting to watch.
Thank you, Carl. Michael, and any thoughts on those comments? I see smiling.
No, I agree with everything that's being said. And I think in the end, it just turns back to the human element in the business, right? It is not process driven. I think leaders, sorry, let me rephrase that. I think there's always been that error, if you will, of individuals who are managers, but they believe they were leaders, and, you know, they're supervisors and managers. And I've always looked at it as a supervisor, really and honestly, someone just saying to you, don't let the building burn down. And that's really what you're doing. You're not making your people better. You're just making sure that when you clock in, whatever that is, and you clock out, the building stays alive, and hopefully the same people are there. Leaders really, great leaders employ the human element. What we have to remember, much like what Merrick and Kyle said, when you're dealing with, you know, your employees or your team, you're really dealing with an inverted pyramid. So you're dealing with the singular person, but behind the singular person, they also have what I commonly call stakeholders, investors. And their real overall is to provide fantastic return to their shareholders. Now, their shareholders in that inverted is their children, their wives, their spouse, their family. You know, that's really what they're there to do. And if leaders who pay attention to that recognize that, yes, I want amazing results, but I must also be cognizant of this individual as an individual. I must be cognizant that they go home, and what do I want that person to say when they get home? What do I want them to communicate at home? So very rarely, or in the world of obviously moving talent around, etc., what becomes critical at times is, and I'll say this, is rare when someone has that type of environment, that type of culture, okay, where they go home, and I'll use Merrick as a guinea pig, for instance. And Merrick goes home and says, I got to tell you something. I work for Ingrid, and yes, I thought I did a bang up job, amazing. And he came down and popped into my office and said, hey, how you doing? Good. Listen, don't want to get into all that stuff. I just want to say, I thought you did brilliant. And I appreciate it so much. I really do. Okay, that's it. He's gone. Okay. And Merrick goes home. He says, so what happened today? My boss came down and he said, look, you did amazing. And you build up a couple of that. And this is a person that asks you what's going on at home, that kind of thing. So the day when somebody else calls you and says, you know what, I'm going to pay you a little bit more money to come over and work for me. In those situations, what normally happens, sometimes you go home and you say, listen, honey, I got a call and it's a bit more money. It's amazing. Oh my God, I'm excited. And, and you expect your wife to be doing cartwheels and, she's not doing anything. She's just standing there. And she says, okay, are you really going to leave Ingrid? And you go, oh, well, it's more, are you really going to leave Ingrid? Right? And that type of investorship by leaders into their people, by paying attention to, it's not just the individual, it is all the other factors that that person comes with, right? Remember, the employee, and the people in organization is the only element that you're not absolutely guaranteed that that person who leaves at night, or now in these days shuts down the computer in the evening, you are not guaranteed that is the same person that comes up, that turns around and shows up in the morning, because so many things can happen throughout that off time. I think it might have been Merrick or Kyle who said it can be a family issue, a dog issue, a financial issue, who knows? But leaders will pay attention to the welfare of their people. It's just called care. Okay, if you care about your people and you demonstrate that and you invest in that, they will indeed invest in you, right? Why do people want to walk through walls for others? It is not transactional. Okay, it's because that individual, that culture has said, look, I care about you. It doesn't mean we're going to go camping and make s'mores, that kind of thing, but I care about what happens to you. Okay, I may not know how to do it effectively all the time, but I will make that effort on your behalf. And what that does, you create an environment where someone actually can come to you, Ingrid, and say, hey, can I speak with you for a second? I know I normally knock it out of the park. This last project, I should have come to you, but I didn't because blank. And the first thing is that person says, okay, sit down, talk to me. What happened? Like, what happened to my rock star? I said, all right, the dog died and the dog ate a squirrel, or a squirrel ate a dog. And, it's my dog. I've known the dog since I was high school and I didn't know what to do. I freaked out. Okay, all right, okay, all right. I got you. Is the dog problem done? Yes, we got a new dog. Anything I can do? No. All right, we're good. Now, there are some leaders who will go even beyond that. Okay, and what happens 3 days later? Dog food shows up at the step, on your doorstep. Okay, and he said, you know what? Because I was thinking about you and I know this matters to you. So here. And these are the little things that great organizations and great leaders really pay attention to. I'll give you a story of a client of mine. He said, I've got a team, they're spread all over the place. It's COVID, people are having a tough time. I'm just trying to sort it out. And I said, okay. So I said, do something different, reinvent the relationship a little bit. Right. And what he ended up doing was to say, you know what I'm going to do for my team, my leaders? I'm going to create some kind of experience where we can all be in the same room. And I said, that's a start. Okay. I said, you know what? If you can do it, why not send them something? Because remember, people are working from home. Their families are investing time. So you're pulling time away from family time, kid time, backyard time, that type of thing. Pay attention to that. And what he ended up doing was he said, look, I'm going to send them food. I'm going to send them wine. We're going to pick a day and a time, and all of us are going to sit on Zoom. We're going to have the same wine, and we're going to talk. And as I said to him, I said, the one thing you will not do, there will be no business talk. Okay, I don't care how great it's been this week or last week or how horrible, had nothing to do with it. Okay, it was simply be, how are you doing? How is it going? What's happening with you? And I said, you have to share. So you cannot just be orchestrate or be the leader of the orchestra. You must also share, here's what I'm going through, here's what's happening to me. And I said, you might be surprised at the outpouring of it. And, you know, after the first week, he had called me back after, he said, you know, I was dumbfounded by the emotional discharge. You know, he said, some of my people cried, right? Because it's been rough and they weren't sure, can I actually say it? Can I say how hard it is for me and my spouse and the kids? But they were able just to share it with me. And he said, I just listened. But I also shared with them the difficulty that I have with my kids in one place and my spouse. And he said, it just made such a difference. And I said, now that we've started that, you must be consistent, invest in it, right? And then at some point you will make a shift, and that shift will be, I will not be the conductor. You will choose one of your leaders and say, you know what, next week you are the conductor. You pick the food, you pick the thing. We'll pay for it, but you pick it. And now you will lead, you will ask the questions. I will just be one of you. And, you know, over a period of time, again, that just builds this, you know, it just creates this environment. And it might have been Kyle or maybe Merrick touched upon it too. Trust and care. It is an amazing thing when someone believes and says to themselves, my boss, my leaders, my organization, they care about me. They care about me. Because then that becomes a situation where you have individuals who now care deeply about the organization. They care not just their people, but they care about the organization. But it must be demonstrated honestly, authentically, although I hate that word authentic. And it must be consistent. It cannot be a one-off greatness and balloons and popping and all, and then nothing happens. You know, it has to be consistent. So that's what I would pipe in.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you for giving away the wine chat secrets. Yeah, we, no.
Once
honestly,
I said that, I thought, bloody hell. But no, I'm just kidding.
No, you know what? Last year, you know, I was doing work with a group of HR practitioners who are either transitioning or in new roles, trying to figure out where they're going, what we were doing. And it just, somebody said in the group one night, we got to stop talking and meeting about work. Why don't we meet after hours? We did Zoom wine chat, and that was the same rule that Michael had. We're not talking about work. And you know what I started seeing is people started moving forward and releasing, and then talking about and thinking about what they wanted to do differently. So yeah, excellent. Not that we're telling you to drink or anything, but you know, just okay. You can bring Sprite or something. Okay, over to you, Evangeline, for the next question.
Amazing. Really, my goodness, everything that you guys have said, I think the biggest thing that I've been hearing here is human connection, human touch. You know, I think it was Marek that was mentioning, you know, our virtual world, your kid running in, your pet running in, you know, and I'm like, that's the reality of our life. Finally, you know, the work, the bosses, you know, they get to see what life is like for us, right? That's real life. And so let's make a little shift a little bit and talk about diversity. Creating a more qualified, diverse future workforce, right? As we move into this, I think, hybrid, I don't know what to really call it. I wish I can say systemic racism has all gone away, but we know the reality, it's not. And so Blacks and racialized professionals, they're struggling, and they've always struggled before, and that hasn't gone away because we are now working virtually. So Marek, I'm gonna come to you with this question. How can professionals counter-react to the negative racial stereotypes that may hold them back that may undermine their professional images while working remotely?
That's a great question. Thank you for that. And the first thing I would say in response to the question is, it's important to know your history. You have to know who you are and where you come from. But it's more important to know that you're not bound by it. It's only a part of your story. As people saw you or think you may be or who you used to be, it's a part of your history. We all adapt. We all change. And that is super important internally for you to understand. The second thing I would say is be yourself. I mean, we've all talked about it. That connection is real. I mean, people feel it. When you are trying to get someone, pull the wool over their eyes or BS them, people know. And I've worked with leaders that, think, well, to Michael's point, if I do the balloons and I say the words, then it will be believed. So I'll do it because of that. But there's no sincerity. There's no genuineness behind it. Being who you are lets people see you as that. Do not try to live as you think you're seen. I think it was one of our other discussions that we were having, and I was talking about an experience that I had where I had taken a role, and I took over a directorship I had like over 20 warehouses. So I was walking through my buildings, and a guy walks up to me, and this is my first walk through, and he walks up to me and he goes, "Hey, what's up, brother?" And this is, 6'4", blonde hair, blue eyes. Never met the guy a day in my life. Like, I'm the director for this region. I'm running this business. Like, why am I your brother all of a sudden? Like, why the fist bump? Like, what makes that happen? Why couldn't it be, "Oh, hello, nice to meet you"? I'm sure it would have been a different approach if I looked different, right? So not accepting that as a greeting. I didn't give the fist bump, but I introduced myself or whatever the case is. So when you see those small little, signals of people trying to paint a picture around you, I think we've talked about it, but I think it's clear to the panelists here. Everyone on this panel is highly experienced, very well spoken, and I'm sure many of you have heard, "Wow, you're well spoken," or "You communicated that well," right? Well, what did you expect? You know what I mean? I was going to do some figurative dance for you, or, so don't accept those things when people interact or try to paint you that way. Another thing that I would say is push where you can push. But it's also, you got to be cautious about putting yourself over the edge. So what I mean by that is when you see opportunities to really highlight the skills that you have, back to the earlier discussion about adding value to the people around you, go the full distance, run the 100 meters. Don't hold back, because that's where you need to be able to show people, "Hey, I'm a star. Yes, you saw it. I'm a star. I know you saw it." Right? And that will start to wipe away people's, "Well, I don't know. They sit in the corner. They don't really, they contribute when they need to, but nothing phenomenal." Now, what I was saying about not going over the edge, a lot of us shy away from opportunities because maybe we think that, we can't deliver 100%. So what I was saying about push yourself to the edge is when there's opportunities for you to really shine, like it may be something that's 5 years ago for you or 2 levels below you, but you can add value to the team in the current situation. Like I said, run the 100 meters so people see who you are and someone that's adding value. And unfortunately, you constantly got to put those wins on the board. And I'm not saying remind people, but when the opportunities come up, you have to show it. Adding value is one thing that's always welcomed, always appreciated, and never denied. I've worked in tons of work environments where the output or the expectations were different, like place to place. But if you can get in line with what is respected where you are and show that I'm a professional, yes, I speak clearly, yes, I know what I'm doing. And even though you don't have maybe the confidence to the people that you're in front of, meaning, sure, I've got 10 years, but they've got 20. So I don't know if I should really be, saying what I'm about to say. But inside, that if you were standing in front of someone that's been doing it for 7 years and you've been doing it in 10, you take the mic and steal the show. Steal the show. Let them hear it. Don't hold yourself back. I've said this before in other places. Your experience puts you on the solution side of many people's problems. Like, people think that they're not enough. You are the exact solution that people are looking for. There's someone that is looking out for you, that's saying, hey, you know, you may be in your second year of college, but there's someone in high school saying, I don't know, man, how do I go through the application process for college? How do I get the funding? Like, am I even going to be able to handle the course content, right? You're the saver for someone. You're in second year. You may be a manager, and there's a supervisor saying, what do they do in that big manager office? Like, I don't know. I mean, you know, are they getting waved with leaves and, you know, fed grapes? No, man, there's a supervisor that wants to make that manager spot. You have been through it. Share and tell them. But again, back to my earlier point, don't be afraid to show your successes. A lot of us think that it's bragging or it's going to rub people the wrong way. If you are trying to add value, like I was saying before, depending on your environment, and you're doing it in a connected way that's genuine, then people know it's real. I mean, we all know when somebody's trying to show off and there's nothing else beyond that. But because you're experienced and you've really done it, you can turn around and talk about the nitty gritty with people. You can walk them through the steps. And there's people that are looking for it. So those are the people that you want to be able to shine for. There's others that will look and say, oh, look at them over there. They're just showing off. They're trying to, you know, flash in the pan. Those people aren't going to be in your corner. Those people are never going to be your biggest cheerleader. But if you are helping the people that are a step, 2 steps, 10 blocks behind you, soon enough, there'll be enough of those people that say, hey, that's the guy, that's the lady, that's the person. So just think, when the people that you look at as successful, as I wonder how they got there, there's many, many people that are looking at you. I always say, whenever I feel like I've hit a wall in success, like, I don't know if I can take on anymore. I don't know, you know, I really don't know how I can get around this wall. I turn around and give back. Like, maybe I haven't been mentoring or coaching or sharing with people as much as I can. I join panels, I get into talks. And when I give back and I turn back to the problems I was facing, I have a whole new perspective. Everybody has something to learn from everybody. It's just a matter of if you have the time to find it. So to the question about how do you break it, don't let them put it on you. You know, I met a very talented, she's a Black girl at the place that I was today, and she was a senior leader. And she said to me, and when I walked in the office, I felt like I was at like a barbecue or like a friend's house. And the first time I met her, and she just said, listen, you know what? This is who I am. My team loves me. You know, I'm not going to play like the corporate stuff. I got here because I know how to train. That's what I do. And I was like, right on. And just from the minute I clicked, because she was 100% genuine. You know, she wasn't like, oh, you're the guy. Okay, hi, nice to meet you, sir. You know, it wasn't any of that. It was just, I am who I am. And we've all got to get to that place, because who you are, somebody wants to be, somebody can learn from. So keep doing what you're doing. Stay proud of yourself, give back, and trust me, it's going to help in the long run.
Thank you, Merrick. So LaLa and Jeanette, I want to follow up through on that question. And I want to talk about diversity and intersectionality. So as women in this diverse or lack of diverse space, do you find that the virtual world has provided more advantages or disadvantages for you with your business and the work you do?
Go ahead, LaLa.
I see LaLa thinking.
I am thinking. The question is, do I feel like I'm at a disadvantage as a woman? I feel like I should feel that way, but in like where I am right now, I don't feel that way. When I was working in corporate though, I totally felt that way, because I would go to a meeting. I remember going to conferences. I used to travel for work, and I remember going to conferences where I would be the only woman of color out of like 500 people. And someone, like, it's same with has Maverick said, someone would come up to me and I would be explaining them, because I was a communicator, so I would be communicating about the business, and I would be explaining to them, and they would look at me in awe, like, oh my gosh, you said that so well. I'd be like, okay, what does that mean? So I really, as a woman of color, because I worked in occupational health and safety, and if you know anything about occupational health and safety, there are not a lot of women. And I think one time when I went to a conference, I saw another woman of color, and we saw each other, and it was like, oh, hi, because like there's no diversity in that space. And I kind of just had to own it. It's very disheartening, especially when you go to like an event, or when you go to a conference and you've met someone 85 times and they're like, oh, your name is LaLa? Oh, nice to meet you. And I'm like, I'm the only person of color here all the time. And my name is not hard to remember. Like, it's LaLa. You know what I mean? So getting over that as a woman and as a woman of color was difficult. But I feel like where I am right now, I'm in a different space because I'm running my own business. And if people don't want to work with me, then don't work with me. Like, that's how I feel about it. I'm very aware that as Maverick was just saying, that I'm a step above or a step ahead of a lot of people. So I try to be intentional about, if people reach out to me and they want to know about the business, or they want to know, okay, LaLa, how did you get here? How do you do this? Be very intentional about saying, okay, this is what you do. Because I've had some extremely great mentors in my life and in my business. And I don't think I would be where I am if I didn't have those mentors. So I really go above and beyond to try to be that to someone else, to try to share my experience and to speak about my experience as much as I can, to have some type of impact on others.
Thank you, LaLa. Jeanette?
Okay.
Thank you.
So no, probably earlier, not probably, definitely earlier in my career, I had a lot of challenges as a Black woman. I also finished school much earlier than many people. So I was always the youngest person, and I was a Black woman, and I was in the room with a lot of white males. But I had a lot of confidence. And so I always confronted microaggressions. And I always made sure that my work was beyond reproach. You know, that's what we do as Black people, especially Black women. And so my work was always work that could not be questioned. And so because of that, I had no problem appropriately addressing situations that someone else couldn't address because their work was not as good as mine. I always made sure that my boss's boss knew my work, and that made me get a promotion over my boss when I was 28, right? And so that was my approach. And now today, much like LaLa says, I have Corona Days Professional Development Group, I have my career strategy business, and I also am a member of a senior leadership team of an organization that's run by all women. So I'm not confronting it, but what I do is I try to help our members who are confronting issues of gender bias, racism. We do racial equity training. And so no, for me, but I'm an anomaly, and I know that. I know that people don't, that many of my peers who I went to school with, who they have experienced situations that have had them leave careers. And I have experienced those same situations, but I battled through them.
That's it. Sorry, if I just want to add something. It's interesting that you say that, because I remember facing a lot of microaggressions earlier on in my career and just ignoring them, trying to push through. And a lot of us do that when you're young, when you're 22 and you're 23 and you're working in a corporate setting. You don't know, okay, am I able to talk up? Can I talk up? Can I say something? What do I do? And I think I think it's important work that you're doing by teaching younger people about that, because it's an important thing to know that we actually can say something, that we actually can do something, that we don't have to work under that environment. So
Yeah, and the way I would approach it now is not, I'm sorry, Evangeline, is not the way I would approach it then. So I used to approach it in joke, right? So I'd say, did you really just cut me off? Right? You know, no, that's not what I meant. Let me tell you what I meant, right? And so I would do it that way, which many people could not, because you're supposed to be the angry Black woman, right? And so I would approach it in joke, but that white man who was white-splaining me did not like that this brown woman was telling him about himself in front of his whole team, right? So it worked for me, and that's the way I confronted it. Today, many people can't do that because in the moment they feel they're hurt in that moment, right? And so they can't muster that up. But that was the way I did it. And then it just was something that if you do that, you don't do that in front of me to anyone, because I'm going to say, hey, Merrick, why did you just cut Ingrid off? Well, gosh, you really need to speak, right? Okay, let's stop everything, shut it down. Go ahead, Merrick. And he will never do that again, right? So, but many people can't do that. And so we try to gird people up and give them the tools to be able to do that in the way that is most comfortable for them with our racial equity work. And I'm sorry I cut you off again.
Oh, no, not at all. That's actually a good point that you just mentioned. I wish I knew to do that during my own time when I first went into IT. Talk about being the only Black woman, and then you're also in IT. So, and then an immigrant, you're worried about your accent. So when you're cut off, or when you bring up great ideas and somebody goes, takes your idea, refines it in perhaps better English, for lack of a better way to describe it. And then the next thing you're hearing is, like Jeff said, like Michael said, and you're sitting down and saying to yourself, wait a minute, this is my topic, this is my points, and how come nobody is giving me that recognition? And I'll share a little bit of another experience before I hand over to Jeff. I remember years ago, I started a new job, and we are in a orientation, and we finished the orientation. And I like to dress well, and I'm not shy to dress well. And so when we finished the orientation and we started walking to our various departments, and I'm walking, and this guy behind me was walking behind me. And later on, we became friends though, but he said, he would turn left and I would turn left. He would turn right and I would turn right. And he's going to himself, okay, she's going to marketing department. She's going to customer service department. But then I kept moving past those two departments, and he goes, wait a minute, she's not going to systems, is she? But like I said, eventually we became good friends till today. So I hear you ladies about microaggression and being the only Black female immigrant, for me in the room. So Jeff, we're gonna hand over to you. It looks like we have 2 questions that hasn't been answered in the QA.
Yes, thank you. First question is, how do I build a relationship with my employees in this online environment if being in person is not an option?
And anybody can take it.
Take that. Yep, open to anyone.
I'll jump on. Sorry, I thought Michael would have been all on it. Yeah. So how do you build? Sorry, question again. How do you build relationship? Was it?
With my, yeah.
How do you build a relationship with my employees in this online environment if being in person is not an option?
Yeah, perfect. Again, I mean, we've talked about it at length, but it's the human connection. The benefit that you have is that you have an audience. I mean, like, they're your employees, right? So you can demand their time essentially. So with that, use your authority to make the connection. If you feel like you're going to fall short on the human connection piece of it, talk about the work. And that's where it starts. I mean, that's an easy end. Talk to me about the stuff that I've assigned to you. Tell me how it's going. Do you have the tools? I'll tell you this. One of the frameworks that I use when I'm working with people, it goes in 3 ways. I have to understand their mindset, the people that are working for me, the people that I'm working with, because it starts with the mind. You know, what you think drives your behaviors, and then behavior drive output. But so understand their mindset. Hey, you know, we had a group meeting last week or 2 days yesterday. What'd you think about it? Like, what'd you think about what the rest of the team was saying? Like, were you on the same page? I really didn't hear much from you. Tell me about it, right? Then they get into the conversation. You understand where their head's at, and just engage, like really and truly connect and listen. Well, you know, I don't know if that's going to work for us and our team because blah, blah, blah. Right. Now you've got something, you know, you got something on the hook. If that's not comfortable for you, or that's not the relationship that you have, the next thing that I move from after mindset is skill set. Talk to me about this stuff. I mean, I know we're online, you know, we're using Teams. Some people use Zoom. Are you comfortable with all these tools that we're using? I mean, is there any questions you have, or, you know, so ask those type of things on how you can help them with the skills that they have. At that point, hopefully the relationship is strong enough, or the communication has been ongoing enough, where now you can talk about, so mindset, tool set, skill set. So the tools would be the equipment. Then the third one is the skill set. How I can give you a hammer, but it doesn't mean you're a carpenter, right? So how are you using the tools that we have? And that's when you can really get your employees to buy in on long-term goals, medium to long-term goals, where you talk about, here's what we've got coming down the pipeline. Here's what's over the horizon. Tell me about it. Like, are we equipped? Do you think the team can handle this? Am I giving you enough? Like, tell me if I'm not. You know, so ask those open-ended questions and be ready for the feedback. That's the thing. As a leader, if you're going to ask a question, you've got to be able to accept whatever comes back in response. The fact that you care enough to ask is enough to open the door. That is, I can't say enough about it, like honestly and truly. So that's how I would start. And then I think Michael mentioned it earlier, don't let it stop there. You know, if somebody was to say, hey, you know, I see the initiative coming out, I really don't understand how it impacts my job. I've only got one part of the pie, and it's not till the end. Great, well, let me tell you about how this fits into the entire picture. Let me tell you how maybe, yeah, you've got one piece to deliver, but you know what? You can help out this person on their piece of it, because you know what? We're talking now, I'll help you out. I was thinking about maybe you can move to another section or help someone else out, right? And like present some opportunities to them, not BS, but really and truly, you're the leader, right? Ask them where their interests are. I don't even like what I'm doing. I mean, it was the only opening, that's why I report to you, right? Like, you're gonna hear that type of stuff, but ask the questions, engage in it, and you're not gonna squeeze all the juice in one sitting. I mean, keep the conversation going. Hey, listen, I really appreciate this talk. I've got to jump on a call. Can we schedule something? I mean, 20 minutes, 15 minutes every Thursday. How is it? You schedule it. Look at my calendar, you schedule it, and I'll be there. So that's your foot in, and it's a build. When you build things, what do you have to do? Continuously add to it. Like the CN Tower wasn't built with one brick, right? They kept bringing truckloads and they kept printing and they kept putting them on. So when you're building relationships, when you're building teams, you have to continuously add to it. Now, the challenge here, and this is the double hook. Leaders feel like they always have to speak. They feel like they have to give the answer. They feel like they have to be the solution. You'd be surprised at how willing your team is to speak and to give ideas when you ask the right questions and give them the platform. So ask the questions, ask them about where their mind's at, ask them about the tools that they're using, ask them about the skills that they have. And even if it's not for current job, hey, what do you want to do next? Is what you're doing going to get you on to the next place? So that's how I do it.
I'm
Great response.
Yeah.
I'll just do 1 minute.
Thought for me, please, Michael. I actually want to also ask you a question that we see in the QA. And if you can be very brief, because I'm also thinking we're running out of time. So there is a question directed to you. Please, can you have Michael talk more on the idea of treating the person in front of you as a stakeholder? That is such a powerful concept. So 2 minutes. So we can.
Okay. Thank you for that question, whomever did it. And I'll just piggyback a little bit on the previous. So let's take this question plus the other question. And let's just, what works very different if your team is vast or if your leadership is a smaller group? You as a leader must be willing to make the investment. Now that investment can be in a number of ways. Now, normally, yes, you may have a weekly catch up over Zoom about the work, how we're doing, where we have issues, where we're being excellent, what the drop-offs. So you may have that. What is also critical is have one-on-ones. Create one-on-one conversations where you're able to say to someone, I would like to spend half an hour with you. In that half an hour, ask that individual, how are you doing? Okay. What is it that's going right at the moment? What are you doing really well? And where do you have challenges? What do you need from me? Like, how do I make your world better? And if you need something, also say to that person, here's what I need from you. I'm hoping that we can deliver it together. But have one-on-ones, and they do not have to be strictly about, our ability to get the work done. There has to be a human aspect to it. Individuals are very, very open when you ask questions and they truly believe that you care. The other aspect is, is to also remember that although you have a team, try sometimes not to think of it as you work for me. Try thinking of it as that, you are a member of my team. I am here to lead the best way I can. I am here to find out what keeps you up at night, what you need from me, how do I make you better, and also to share with you what I may need from you. If you start with that type of interaction, you may not get the right answers or all the answers in the first way, because sometimes people may think, depending on what the previous relationship was like, is that person really honest? Are they really interested in me giving the right answers or giving those types of answers? The second go around, you may actually get that clarity where they will say to you, you know what keeps me up at night? Blank. And I don't know how to ask you. I wasn't sure what to do. You know what I do really well, and I don't think you've recognized that. I do whatever it is, I do amazingly well. Okay. And you know what? My blind spots have been blank. Can you help me? And if you sign on to help that person with that blind spot, then that is what you have made that commitment, and you move heaven and hell to help them with that blind spot. The same way as let's call it a leader, you say to someone, here's what I need from you. I need consistency. And if you run into an issue, whatever that issue is, call me, email me, text me, and I will be there. Those little things go a very, very long way on an individual basis. Obviously, you add to that, recognize that the individual that you're speaking with, treat them, as you say, as a stakeholder, because they themselves, once they finish that call with you, once they finish their evening, they also are basically going to their families to recount some of the day. And what you don't want in your team is for people to get off these calls and go, oh my God, I just can't take it anymore. You want them to actually get off the call and say, you know what, that was really good. I had a good week. My leader cared about what happened to me. We spent a little bit of one-on-one, and some of that was just basically learning some of the things that I don't know very well. The other part of it was just asking me how I was doing. And I was able to feel that connection where I could say to them, how are you doing? That information flow back and forth on a consistent basis makes all the difference in the world. And it goes beyond just the group and the team chat or the team discussion about the project or about the mandate. Start with that.
Thank you so much. Marek, I'm just going to hand over to you for your power talk.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. And we've got 5 minutes left, so I'll save you some time to close up. Great point, Mike. Thanks for that. So I'm just quickly going to talk about what professionals must cultivate. And the reality is, you mustn't do anything. If you're happy in the position that you're in, making the money you make, driving the car you drive, living where you live, then you don't need to cultivate anything. You made it. You are successful. The reality is, I think internally, everyone desires more. We all have a feeling that we can give more, we can contribute more. We want to feel greater success and give more contribution. So to really answer it, I'll summarize some of the points that we had here today. Michael pointed out earlier on that it's important to find a way to make the lives of the people around you better and invest in yourself. I cannot express how important investing in yourself is. Please hear this out, guys. If you do not invest in yourself, people will not be willing to invest in you.
Mm.
Have you ever had someone ask you for something and I don't know if you've got kids and they never took the time to look at themselves? Or when you sit down and say, you know what, okay, I'm going to give them some time, you can tell that they're not as committed as you. The very first thought is, why am I more committed to your success than you are? So invest in yourself so that other people feel that. And when you reach your cap, then you reach out. Kyle talked about empathetic communication that builds trust and rapport. We talked about communication a lot. The empathetic part and the trust is critical. We all talk. Talk is cheap. We know that. Where's the action? And the only way to be able to build rapport and build trust is by standing behind the words that you're saying. So don't say things you don't mean. Don't commit to things you know you can't deliver. Don't ask questions that you don't want answers for, or you're not going to be happy with the responses that you get. And really and truly try to speak from a place that's in your heart when you're talking to people. Also, Kyle also talked about being uncomfortable is where the growth is. That's true. I don't know if anybody has kids, but if you've got small kids, what's the first thing they say when their shoes start getting too tight? My feet hurt, right? Why is it? Because they're outgrowing where they're currently in. So it's uncomfortable, right? That is like everything else. When you're in a conversation with someone and you feel pinned down, it's uncomfortable because you haven't built what you need to make it a comfortable conversation. So lean into that discomfort. The other thing that LaLa talked about is finding your purpose by putting energy into the things that you see value in. And that's so important because when you see value in what you're doing, the energy runs and you deliver better. Also, LaLa talked about, going through the things that you don't like to find your purpose and get to where you do want to be. She spent time in the corporate world only to realize where she that she wanted to do her own thing. But had she not had those experiences, maybe she wouldn't be. The last 2 points that I have here, or 3 points that I have here, network. You need to build a network and relationship that expands beyond your current needs. Don't think, what do I need tomorrow? Or what do I need now? I need milk for the cake or whatever the case is. No. Who do I want to be? Where do I want to be in 2, 5, 10, 15, 100 years? And build your network that's going to help you get there. Also, you need to cultivate, and we've talked about this, confidence and authority in your line of work. Contribution and trust in your area of expertise. People need to know that they can come to you with confidence and you need to be able to deliver confidently. Remember, you are a star for someone, so you have confidence. Never forget that. And then also the ability to ask questions even when you're knowledgeable about things. Just because you're knowledgeable doesn't mean you know it all. And asking the right questions will give different perspectives. If you're open to those, it gives a different view on things. And different views is really what makes life for us, right? If we all only could stare at a blank wall for the rest of life, it would be pretty boring, right? It's the sunrises and the sunsets. It's the experience and the interactions. So those are the things that I would suggest we cultivate. I didn't give you 2 minutes, but thanks you.
You're amazing. You're amazing. Honestly, I just said to myself, my God, we don't have time for Mary to really expand on these great thoughts. But thank you. And thank you to all of you amazing speakers who donated your time freely, sharing what you know for us to learn. And thank you to all of our participants. Oh my goodness, I can't thank you all enough. And Ingrid, girl, thank you. I told you this morning that you amaze me. You are a strength like no other. You inspire me. Thank you, everybody. I see our chair. So I see everybody here. My heart is just full of joy. Thank you for being part of our second annual Black History Month. Let's Talk Mentorship Conference. And definitely we're coming back next year, ready to share with you all what we have, bringing amazing speakers So stay connected with us. Donate, don't forget that. That's the only way that we keep bringing these programs to you. Follow us on all our Instagrams, all of our social media pages, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. And make sure you're connected to all these great, lovely people in front of you. I saw somebody saying test their emails. Guys, please, share your information with our amazing participants. Ingrid, one last word.
Me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so another great event. I really want to thank the panelists. It was a great discussion tonight with lots of tips, and the recording will help spread the word. It was excellent for us all to be here, and I am so proud of what Black Mentorship Inc. has achieved. And Evangeline, thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Just stop sharing. I want to see everybody so that I can do my air hugs. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, we are 3 minutes over time, but you know what? I think it's worth it. Amazing, amazing evening. Thank you.
Keep in touch, everybody.
Absolutely. Bye.
Have a great evening.
Have a great evening. Thank you, Jeff. You're
Bye,
amazing.
guys.
Jeff, keep in touch.
Real.
Sending
Sure.
hugs.
Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
Stay safe,
Bye.
guys. Bye now.
Bye.
Later, everyone.
Bye.